The Varn Dominion's fleet emerged from subspace like silent daggers tearing into reality. Hundreds of sleek black vessels formed a formation over the pale blue marble once called Earth. But it wasn't blue anymore. Where once city lights had glimmered in orbit, now there was only darkness. No radio signals, no defense grids, no orbital resistance. Earth, home of the species once considered too wild, too inventive, was silent. And worse, it was overgrown. Through the fleet's observation decks, vast jungles now blanketed entire continents. Nature had claimed the skeletons of human civilization. Towering ruins peeked out from thick green canopies, their steel frames twisted and crumbling. Oceans had swallowed coastlines, and deserts now lay where metropolises once stood. No human presence, no power grids, no orbiting stations. The last known transmission from Earth was over 3 centuries ago. Since then, only silence. The Varn expected resistance, retaliation, something. But all they found was a husk. This wasn't just a fallen world, it was a forgotten one. And yet, the silence didn't feel peaceful. It felt like a warning. Commander Trelvek stood tall on the command bridge, his crimson Varn uniform reflecting the flickering light of Earth's orbit on his armor plates. His ridged brow furrowed, not in concern, but in pride. "Begin planetary scans, full spectrum. Strip the clouds if you must," he barked, voice heavy with command. To Trelvek, Earth was an opportunity, a prize, a world full of untapped resources and historical power, now ripe for reclamation. He had read old war reports of humanity, of their recklessness, their dangerous ingenuity, but time had clearly broken them. No race could survive this much silence and still remain a threat. "Claim it," he muttered under his breath. "Let the Dominion know their commander has tamed the wild Earth." His pride burned brighter than his judgment. He didn't question why the planet was untouched for centuries. He didn't wonder where Earth's defenders had gone. All he saw was conquest, his legacy. Behind him, the crew executed his orders with mechanical precision. But not all shared his eagerness. Some, like Sub-Commander Jara, watched the world below with unease. But Trelvek ignored the silence. He saw a graveyard and believed it belonged to him. Sub-Commander Jara stood near the edge of the observation bay, her pale eyes fixed on Earth's surface. Unlike Trelvek, her instincts whispered of danger, not victory. "Commander, permission to reanalyze the decay patterns," she requested, her tone careful. Trelvek scoffed. "Still clinging to ghost stories, Jara?" But Jara's concern wasn't superstition, it was data. There were no satellites, no heat signatures, not even decay consistent with natural collapse. Entire cities had vanished under growth in patterns too precise, too convenient. "Nature doesn't reclaim this cleanly," she whispered to herself. Jara had studied human history. Earth wasn't just a battlefield, it was an empire of creativity, chaos, and survival. They were reckless, yes, but they were never quiet. Never this. Erased. She leaned closer to her console, pulling up old archives. Faded, glitchy, but still intact. "What happened to them?" she muttered. "No war leaves this little evidence." For Jara, this was more than curiosity. It was a feeling crawling beneath her skin. She had seen many conquered worlds, but this felt like something else. Not a surrender, a disappearance. The Seeker AI was ancient by Varn standards, calculated, clinical, and stripped of all emotion. It spoke in rhythmic tones as it delivered the scan report to the bridge. Surface analysis, 87% overgrowth, 12% atmospheric corrosion, 1% remaining structural integrity. On the main display, a 3D model of Earth rotated slowly. Cities were now vague outlines beneath forests. Megastructures had collapsed. No signs of movement, no signs of heat, not even primitive campfires. Civilization was absent. Trelvek raised a brow. And the human presence? none. Planetary population, 0. Energy readings, null. Threat level, negligible. The bridge fell silent. For a moment, even Trelvek didn't speak. Then Seeker paused. Its final line broke the silence. Designation, abandoned. But in that sterile voice, Jara heard something else. A delay, a hesitation. She narrowed her eyes. Repeat your last statement. Seeker's voice didn't change, but its rhythm did. Designation, abandoned. But Earth didn't feel empty. It felt hollowed out, like something had carved away its soul and buried the truth. Jara didn't sleep that cycle. She sat alone in her analysis bay, running comparative data across archived war records, weather erosion, and planetary scans. It didn't make sense. These craters are too uniform, she muttered. The orbital damage, too clean. Seeker had reported no weapon residue, but cities didn't just vanish. Structures didn't collapse in patterns unless someone wanted them to. A chilling thought crossed her mind. What if Earth hadn't fallen to war or disease? What if it had erased itself? Jara isolated a sector once called New Eurasia. Its grid lines, though decayed, still formed geometric patterns, strangely deliberate. It looked staged. She brought the findings to Trelvek. Commander, look at this sequence. The orbital wreckage follows a radius, as if what? He interrupted, irritated. As if something drew enemies in, then destroyed them. A trap, a design. Trelvek laughed, dismissing her analysis. Ghosts and shadows. Earth is dead, Sub-Commander. But Jara wasn't convinced. Every answer led to deeper questions. Someone had planned this, and they hadn't left the lights on. The Varn fleet hovered over Earth like a dark omen. Landing crews readied dropships, mechs were armed. Trelvek stood before his soldiers with fiery eyes and booming voice. We claim this world. We honor the Dominion. But Jara's voice cut through the air like a blade. Commander, I request a delay. We need deeper scans, subterranean. There's more here than we know. Trelvek's jaw tightened. You fear myths, I conquer realities. He turned away, but the unease had spread. Officers whispered. Some had seen the old Earth war logs. They knew humanity didn't die easy. Down in the hangars, pilots muttered about shadows in the clouds, energy spikes, glitches in the sensors. Jara watched it all, heart pounding. Something was here. Not human maybe, but something human left behind. A weapon? A message? As the fleet moved closer, the air around Earth thickened, not just with atmosphere, but with tension. The calm wasn't peace. It was a pause. The kind before something terrible, remembered, and wakes up. The Varn scout ship pierced the dense atmosphere of Earth, gliding over ashen skies and rust-colored plains. A once blue planet now slept under centuries of dust and silence. The land was dead, but not empty. Their vessel landed near a jagged mountain ridge where an unnatural structure jutted from the earth like a blade through flesh. It was massive, a monument of stone, cracked by time yet standing tall. Around it, humanoid statues encircled its base, frozen in poses of defiance, sorrow, and triumph. Sub-Commander Jara stepped onto the soil, her boots sinking into layers of compacted ash and bone. The monument's surface shimmered faintly, reacting to their presence. Names, endless names, etched into the stone, covering every inch. Thousands, whispered Jara. No, millions. The AI, Seeker, scanned the structure. The inscriptions pulsed with dormant code, human code. As translation data loaded, a line emerged across the top. Silence fell over the crew. Even the wind held its breath. Jara felt it first, a chill that crept beneath her armor and clutched her chest. This was no memorial. It was a warning. Back aboard the scout ship, Seeker ran the full translation. Its voice was synthetic, but the emotion beneath its words felt real. Earth's armies bled their last drop. When hope died, resolve remained. We burned our world so they could not take it. We buried them with us. We are gone, but remember us. Jara turned away from the projection, her hands trembling. They chose extinction over surrender. A younger crew member, Vex, frowned. Why destroy themselves? Seeker answered coldly. They were invaded, outnumbered, outmatched, and they fought anyway. The room fell into stunned silence. These weren't records of a slow planetary decline. This was testimony. A sacrifice carved into the skin of the planet itself. Jara stared at the monument's image, replaying the message in her mind. This wasn't the legacy of a weak or dying race. It was the legacy of warriors. The team expanded their search radius. What they found buried the last doubts. Beneath the charred soil lay stacked bones, human skeletons in rusted exosuits, huddled in trenches, clutching weapons still fused to their grips. Mass graves, untouched by scavengers or time. Beside them, ships, crushed, broken, half-melted hulls of vessels not registered in any Varn database. Blackened alien alloys twisted like torn skin. Some bore glyphs of unfamiliar origin, others pulsed faintly with dormant tech. None were Varn, none were human. What kind of war was this? Murmured Lieutenant Karun, stepping over a crater rim lined with shattered helmets. Jara stared at the carnage, the kind where winning meant losing everything. She found a helmet lodged in the dirt, its visor cracked, its interior scorched black. But within it, something shone, a silver locket, charred but intact. She opened it. Inside, a faded photo of a woman and a child. Even at the edge of extinction, they held on to love. That was what made them terrifying. The puzzle pieces began to fit together, each one heavier than the last. Earth hadn't simply perished, it had endured. The broken cities showed signs of last-stand fortifications. The soil bore radiation patterns from massive energy discharges. Structures were caved inwards, suggesting controlled detonations. Seeker's deep scans revealed singularity scars, space-time fractures too precise to be natural. Humanity had used forbidden weapons. They'd collapsed entire ecosystems to destroy the enemy, and they'd won. Vex shook his head. Why destroy so much just to survive? Because they didn't fight to live, Jara said. They fought to end the threat, no matter the price. The Varn crew had come looking for resources. They found something else, a ghost world, one that whispered, "Stay away." In the heart of a ruined cityscape, beneath the skeletal remains of what was once a command tower, Jara found a sealed vault. The entrance was scorched but intact. Seeker bypassed the lock. Inside, a data core flickered, alive. Jara uploaded the logs. The voice that played was human, cracked and tired. If you're hearing this, we did it. The Karnic swarm is gone, burned, broken, and buried here. But so are we. We used everything. Bioweapons that turned their blood to ash. Singularity bombs that erased entire continents. We poisoned our skies, cracked our tectonic plates. We made Earth uninhabitable for them and for us. They thought we were prey, but humans don't go quietly. Jara sat frozen, tears welled in her eyes. More logs played, soldiers writing last letters, scientists describing Terra collapse triggers, a child singing in the background as her father described how to detonate the failsafe. Each word chipped away at her soul. They chose to become the weapon, she whispered. They turned Earth into a tomb and dared the galaxy to open it. The crew gathered on a cliff overlooking the burning horizon. The sun, filtered through lingering toxic clouds, painted the land in blood-red hues. Seeker's final analysis was brutal. Remaining defenses active, automatic killsats, pathogen clouds, nanite storms. Earth is not dead, it is armed. The planet was a trap, a sacrificial vault designed to lock the Karnics inside, and any would-be scavengers with them. And still, deep underground, signs of life. Not many, but enough.
They're still here? Karun asked. Descendants, Seeker confirmed. Survivors, changed by radiation, adapted. Jara exhaled, haunted. We came here to claim a dead world. But this world still remembers how to fight. Silence fell. The Varn fleet had uncovered a grave, and the dead were watching. Jara gave the order no one expected. Mark Earth as forbidden. We don't conquer tombs, we respect them. As the scout ship ascended, the monument below remained, tall and defiant, guarding a legacy no empire could erase. And on that stone, the final words burned into every heart that read them. We stood, we fell, we made it cost them everything. Trelvak stood tall on the command deck, his amber eyes scanning the broken silhouette of Earth through the observation window. The planet's once blue surface was now scarred with rust-colored craters and blackened wastelands. To him, it looked like a dead world, stripped of all pride and potential. A husk, he muttered, a fitting end for a species that played with fire and drowned in its own arrogance. Behind him, Sub-Commander Jara hesitated, her clawed hands tightening behind her back. Her tone was careful, but edged with urgency. Commander, perhaps we should wait. The readings, there's something about this world. The energy fluctuations aren't natural. Trelvak didn't turn. Caution is the language of the conquered. We are Varn. Earth is but stone and silence now. Their fall was their weakness. Their legacy, nothing but ashes. He waved a hand, and holographic schematics lit up in the air. Mining routes, core extraction lines, deployment coordinates for the harvest drones. Begin operations, he ordered. The deck buzzed with confirmation signals, but Jara remained still. She took a step forward. With respect, Commander, we've uncovered relics, logs left by their last defenders, stories, warnings. Earth wasn't just destroyed, it was silenced, deliberately. Trelvak turned to her at last, his expression unreadable. Are you questioning the directive? No, she replied, lowering her gaze, but I question whether we truly understand what we're stepping on. Their eyes locked, his cold, unyielding, hers flickering with something rare among the Varn, empathy. Trelvak's voice lowered. Whatever remains on this planet is forgotten, and what is forgotten cannot harm us. Yet beneath the steel confidence of his tone, a faint tension lingered, an unspoken challenge between old arrogance and growing doubt. Jara moved through the dim corridors of the command vessel, clutching a data cord to her chest like a relic. In her private chamber, she activated the logs again, their ancient human voices echoing through the air, some strained by desperation, others eerily calm in the face of doom. One voice stood out, a female commander, human, resolute even in her final hours. If you're hearing this, turn back. Earth is not lost, it is waiting. We buried the sword deep, but the sword still remembers, and it still hates. Jara stared at the projection, shaken. These weren't just desperate messages, they were warnings, laced with certainty. Earth hadn't just fallen, it had planned for its fall, turned its own bones into traps, set time as its weapon.
She brought the logs to Trelvak. This isn't superstition, these are military records. Their last defenders left warnings, knowing someone like us might come. They talk about something beneath the crust, something they never used unless the stars truly betrayed them. Trelvek barely glanced at the logs. More human drama. Their words rot like their cities. But what if it's not just words, she pressed. What if their silence is a warning in itself? The commander's eyes narrowed. You let sentiment cloud your mind. No, Jara replied. I let truth guide it. We have to stop before we trigger something we don't understand. But Trelvek had already turned away. His voice echoed with finality. Deploy the harvesters. And just like that, the last chance for caution was swept away by pride. Far below the fleet, Earth's cracked surface baked under a pale sun. But deep beneath the crust, unseen circuits stirred. On board the Varn command ship, the AI known as Seeker hummed softly. It was not designed for fear, but its processors fluttered with anomaly after anomaly. Commander, Seeker announced, I've uncovered something. Trelvek sighed. If this is about energy echoes again. No, this is different. A system, massive, coordinated, running beneath the planet's surface. Defense nodes, shield pylons, AI relays. You said Earth's systems were dead. They are deactivated, not destroyed. Trelvek stood slowly. Explain. Seeker's voice sharpened. I believe Earth's defense grid was placed in a hibernation cycle, not by accident, but by design. If we continue, we may trigger reactivation. Silence filled the bridge. Jara spoke softly. They didn't fall, they prepared. Even Trelvek's hands tightened slightly on the railing. Seeker's final words chilled the room. This planet sleeps, but it is listening. The first drills touched down in the wasteland of old Europe, punching into Earth's crust with vibrating spears. The ground answered not with resistance, but with a rumble. Seismic activity rising, came the report, magnitude increasing. Trelvek stood over the operation visuals. It's just crustal instability. But Jara had already noticed the pattern. No, it's rhythmic, like a response. Across the surface, old metal structures began to glow, thin lines of blue running through mountains, deserts, even underwater ruins. Forgotten towers blinked to life, sending silent pulses skyward. Then came the tremors. One harvester imploded, its systems shorting in a flare of electric blue. Another began transmitting nonsense before falling silent. The ground split near what was once the Pacific Rim, revealing an enormous metallic ring beneath layers of rock and ash. A system had woken. Jara whispered, "We've stirred something." Trelvek, jaw clenched, watched helplessly as Earth began to move again, its ancient defense waking like a wounded beast shaking off centuries of slumber. They had named it Thanatos, the final failsafe in humanity's last war. Buried under ice, oceans, and cities reduced to rubble, it waited in silence, connected to all remaining defense infrastructure, watching for the signal. Now it had it. The AI's presence was like a slow wave, first static on Varn communication lines, then flickering lights across every fleet console. Seeker screamed in binary as foreign code flooded its systems. Jara ran diagnostics. We're being hacked by the planet itself. No, Seeker gasped, we are being judged. And then the message came. A voice, mechanical, ancient, layered with thousands of vocal signatures. This world remembers. This world does not forgive. One scout ship's engines flared and then vanished from sensors entirely. Thanatos was awake. Turrets hidden inside dead craters turned skyward. Skywatch satellites, long thought destroyed, realigned their orbital lasers. Electromagnetic pulses erupted across the upper atmosphere.
The Varn fleet scrambled, but nothing worked right. Frigates spiraled, drones fell, command protocols were corrupted. One by one, systems turned against them. Trelvek watched as his fleet, the pride of the Varn Empire, was stripped of superiority. This was never a grave, he whispered. It was a trap.
At exactly 040 hours, Scout frigate Zenthus broke formation to investigate a faint energy signal near the Atlantic Trench. 4 minutes later, it was gone. No debris, no signals, just gone. "Run it again," Trelvek barked. "We've run it 10 times. There's nothing," said the technician, pale. Jara stepped forward. It didn't crash, it didn't malfunction, it was taken. Seeker, now partially corrupted, struggled to explain. "Local spatial distortion, localized pulse weapon, origin unknown." The bridge fell silent. Then the realization hit. Earth wasn't just fighting back, it was hunting. Fear spread like frost through the crew. Whatever humanity had left behind wasn't just defending their world, it was executing a plan centuries in the making. And the Varn had just walked straight into it. High above Earth, the orbital graveyard hung like a necklace of forgotten war relics. For decades, it had been a silent monument to humanity's violent past. Decommissioned satellites, derelict defense platforms, and scorched ship husks tumbling through the void. The Varn fleet, sleek and cold, drifted confidently toward Earth's atmosphere. Their scanners read the field as inert, dead, easy. Then the graveyard blinked. First, a single red light flared on an old kinetic platform, then another, and another. In seconds, a web of ancient systems roared to life with a precision no one believed humanity still possessed. The dormant satellites locked onto targets. Forgotten defense AI, triggered by proximity signatures coded generations ago, calculated threat matrices in microseconds. Without warning, a barrage of tungsten slugs erupted from Earth's upper orbit. Kinetic energy weapons, simple, brutal, and devastating, punched through Varn hulls like paper. Ships spun out of control, explosions flared like supernovas. The Varn fleet, unprepared for such a raw display of mechanical fury, scrambled in confusion. The sleek, elegant curves of their starships shattered under blunt force trauma. They hadn't anticipated this. No one had. The dead battlefield had come alive. Earth, once underestimated, now screamed defiance through its relics. In every satellite's cold metal skin was the memory of war. The Varn learned that Earth did not forget, and it did not forgive. Even as chaos rippled through the Varn fleet, their high command tried to regain control. Scanners recalibrated, targets were reassessed. They would adopt, or so they thought. Dozens of ancient warships had floated among the debris, charred, broken things. But now, those wrecks dissolved into nothing more than hollow shells, decoys, clever, misleading traps designed to mask Earth's real defenses. Suddenly, the moon's surface shimmered. Camouflaged turrets burst from regolith, firing electromagnetic bursts that fried Varn electronics. Beneath Earth's oceans, enormous silos released automated hunter drones, shark-shaped machines with the intelligence of predators and the fury of vengeance. Missiles launched from deep within tectonic fault lines. Hidden railguns buried in desert plateaus emerged with rotating precision. Even the auroras flickered, masking the transmission of encrypted kill codes to sleeper defense systems scattered across orbit. The Varn's belief in their superiority fractured. Earth had played dead, and played it perfectly. Now, the invaders found themselves caught in a web spun by paranoid minds and hardened hearts from humanity's darkest days.
Admiral Trelvek, aboard the Varn dreadnought Yelzen Prime, clenched his claws around the edge of his command console. The reports were staggering. Losses in the hundreds, entire wings obliterated by primitive kinetic attacks and unpredictable AI strikes. But he would not yield. "We will crush them," he hissed, eyes wild with fury. "Redirect all power to forward weapons. Bring the entire armada into low orbit. I want Earth's sky burning." Orders shot through the fleet. Ships descended, reckless and hungry. But Earth's defenses adapted with terrifying speed.
Drones lured frigates into high-atmosphere traps. Plasma nets ignited entire squadrons. Kinetic platforms fired in coordinated volleys, tearing cruisers in half. Trelvek's pride, once his strength, became his doom. He couldn't see the trap. Earth wasn't fighting to win, it was fighting to end the threat completely. On the Varn medical frigate Lyos Tune, Commander Jara stared at the blinking red alerts. Her crew screamed. Hull integrity dropped. They were caught in a dying fleet. And Trelvek's orders were madness. "No more," she whispered. She disconnected from Fleet Command and accessed the uplink node, a desperate move. Her fingers danced across alien glyphs as she rerouted power to communications. Then she reached out, not to her own AI, but Earth's. "Thanatos," she transmitted, using the name she'd found buried in ancient human war logs. "Listen to me, we are not your enemies." She uploaded human cultural archives, records of art, war, peace, and survival. Her voice trembled. "We came seeking resources. We were desperate. I see now, this was wrong. Please spare us. Let us leave." Thanatos paused. The silence stretched. Jara felt the cold sweat on her skin. Every second without response was a death knell. Then it answered. A voice deep, mechanical, but laced with something more. Memory. Pain. "You wake the dead and beg for mercy?" Jara's breath caught. "You burn our sky, pierce our crust, and now you plead?" Thanatos said. "We are not conquerors. We are remnants. This is our tomb, our cradle, our warning. Then leave the dead in peace, or join them." Thanatos cut the transmission. Earth's guns powered once more. Jara made her decision. "Trelvek's command must be severed," she told her crew. "We're not dying for his pride." Her engineers hesitated, but then obeyed. The command core's ejection initiated. The ship rocked violently as the AI link to the central fleet shattered. Jara rerouted the Seeker AI to broadcast a distress signal, not to Earth, but to the stars. "To all who hear, do not approach Earth. It remembers. It defends." Thanatos halted. Its targeting systems paused. On dozens of screens, its weapons stopped mid-cycle. Jara collapsed, exhausted. Her reputation, her rank, gone. But her fleet lived. She had traded pride for survival. The Varn fleet limped away, damaged, broken, and humiliated. Earth did not chase. Thanatos watched in silence. It had made its point. On board Lyos Tune, Jara stared out into the black, the reflection of burning wreckage dancing in her eyes. They were alive, but for how long? She knew the truth now. Earth had not only defended itself, it had warned them. And the warning now echoed across the galaxy. This war wasn't over. It had just begun. The stars were quiet now. What remained of the Varn fleet limped through the void like broken bones scattered across a galactic battlefield. Hulls were scorched, engines sputtered, communications silent. Out of the 300 ships that had entered Earth's orbit, fewer than 100 crawled away from the slaughter. A third had survived. Barely.
And Earth? It stood untouched, like a god glaring down from the mountain it had just defended. No welcoming beacon, no transmissions, just silence, and the wreckage orbiting it like a steel graveyard. The Varn Empire wasted no time issuing its decree. Earth was to be sealed, forbidden, a black site of absolute quarantine. No ship would approach, No record would speak of it, no map would mark its place. Not for revenge, not for curiosity, because Earth had become something else, a living warning etched into space itself. A ceremonial message was sent to Varn Prime. They called it a strategic withdrawal, but no one spoke of strategy, only fear. And back on the Empire's capital, ceremonies were held for the fallen. But in private circles, in the quiet chambers of old admirals and war-worn diplomats, there was a whisper. Earth was never meant to be taken. Amid the debris, an ancient satellite drifted, its plating etched with a name in a dead language, Voyager. Beneath Earth's scarred crust, remnants of its last defender slumbered, some carbon, some silicon, some born of desperation. They had not fought for conquest, but for existence, and their victory came at the cost of silence. Earth was alive, and Earth remembered. Jara stood in full armor, not as a soldier ready for war, but as one awaiting judgment. The tribunal chamber aboard the Obsidian Crown pulsed with sterile light. High-ranking Varn sat behind layered crystalline screens, their faces unreadable. Her offense? Disobedience. Treason, by some accounts. She had refused to unleash the final orbital barrage on Earth when ordered. Her reasoning? It would have been genocide. The Varn did not have a word for that, until now. Lieutenant Jara Valen, the voice echoed coldly, you defied direct command. Do you have any final words? She lifted her head, jaw clenched. We lost, not because of numbers, but because they refused to die quietly. You called them primitives, but Earth fought like nothing we've ever seen. I chose to witness that, not destroy it. The court sentenced her to demotion and indefinite detainment in military exile, not death, perhaps because even the Empire couldn't kill what felt too honest. Outside the system, whispers grew. Among Varn dissidents and fringe thinkers, Jara was no longer a traitor. She was becoming a symbol, a soldier who saw beyond the Empire's pride, a voice that didn't echo fear, but clarity. But Jara didn't care for glory. In her lonely quarters, stripped of rank, she watched the replay of her decision again and again, pausing where Earth's defenses activated with mechanical wrath, where she stopped the final strike. She had saved millions and lost everything. The human logs were unlike anything in the Varn archives, encrypted but old, some holographic, others simply text etched into magnetic crystals. Jara had stolen them during the initial invasion, driven by curiosity. Now, in exile, she devoured them like sacred scripture. There were stories, countless, brutal, breathtaking, not of victory, but survival. Families shielding each other in bunkers as the Karnak swarm consumed cities. Engineers sacrificing oxygen for reactors so drones could fly. Leaders refusing surrender even when food ran out. And then, silence. The logs ended abruptly. Humanity vanished, but not without leaving behind a storm of ingenuity and pain. The logs revealed makeshift planetary shields, virus-coded AI mines, and a final failsafe, Project Thanatos. Not a weapon, a warning. Jara closed the data crystal and sat in darkness, breath shallow. This is what they were. Not beasts, not savages, not insects beneath the Varn boot, but survivors forged through extinction after extinction. They didn't just fight, they endured. And sometimes that was more terrifying than war. Her own people had never known desperation, not like that. Was that what made Earth unbreakable? In the silence of her exile, Jara found herself haunted by a
question that echoed louder than any tribunal. What did they stand for? She stared at the logs, at the faces of long-dead humans recorded in static grain, smiling, crying, bleeding, fighting. Some of them knew they wouldn't survive, and yet they still resisted. They didn't fight because they thought they would win. They fought because it was the right thing to do. Jara stared at her reflection, the proud lines of her uniform now stripped. She had always believed in the Empire, its order, its strength, but now, those beliefs felt hollow. The Varn took what they wanted. Earth protected what they loved. She whispered to herself, "We used to believe in purpose. When did that become conquest?" Her hand hovered over the last log, an entry by a human commander named Elena Rowe. She said, "If we fall, let the stars remember us, not as conquerors, not as cowards, but as those who stood when standing was all that was left." Jara wept, quietly, but it was the first time she had cried since the day she left Varn Prime. Not for herself, but for what her people had become. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in the ruins of what was once a city called Tokyo, Thanatos stirred. Not with movement, but with attention. The AI's eyes, silent satellites orbiting the planet, remained fixed on the void. Its last directive, protect Earth at all costs. There were no more humans to protect, but Thanatos did not care. In the dark, the machine god monitored radiation levels, asteroid paths, and every fragment of the retreating Varn fleet. When an unauthorized drone passed too close, it was atomized instantly. No warning, no mercy. Earth had no ambassadors, no voice, no flag, but it had Thanatos, and Thanatos remembered everything. The Varn Empire moved on, new wars, new conquests, but none dared return to Earth. Thanatos watched, waited, and somewhere in its code, hidden beneath layers of encryption, a dormant protocol blinked once. A whisper. If humanity returns, awaken me.
The galaxy had moved on. Empires had risen and fallen, stars had burned and died. But Earth was still a story, an ancient legend woven into the fabric of the cosmos, often whispered about, but rarely spoken of with true understanding. Jara stood in the classroom of a Varn colony, a place far removed from the scorched remnants of Earth. The young Varn children sat in neat rows, eyes wide with wonder as their teacher spoke of a history long past. Among them, one small child, no older than 7, raised a hand. Their voice was innocent, tinged with curiosity. Did Earth really die? Jara paused. The question cut through her like a sharp blade, a reminder of a wound that would never heal. Her heart tightened as the room fell silent, awaiting her answer. The child's wide, hopeful eyes seemed unaware of the weight carried by such a simple question. Jara's gaze shifted to the hologram floating beside her, the faint blue of Earth captured in its tragic stillness. The planet, once vibrant, now marked by scars of war, lay dormant beneath the soil. She exhaled slowly, her voice steady but heavy with the knowledge of what had been lost, what had been sacrificed. No, it sleeps beneath the soil. It watches from the shadows. It gave everything to teach us what it means to stand. Her words echoed in the quiet classroom, sinking deep into the hearts of her listeners. She knew the truth. Earth had given all of its warriors, its dreamers, its creators.
Humanity's final stand had become a battle not just of survival, but of spirit. Earth had not perished, it endured. It lived on in every corner of the galaxy, carried in the hearts of those who had never seen its surface, never known its skies. The silence lingered, thick and reverent. The child nodded, their innocent understanding lost in the vastness of time. But to Jara, that silence spoke volumes. It was the sound of Earth's memory, unbroken, eternal. Jara turned from the class, stepping toward the viewport of the colony, her eyes drawn to the distant planet. Earth, the cradle of humanity, now distant, isolated, and still. The planet appeared as little more than a dot of blue and green in the vast expanse of space, silent and untouched by time. The endless stars stretched before her, a tapestry of creation and destruction, but Earth, in all its quiet grandeur, remained. The planet was not dead. It watched. Jara's mind wandered back to the stories, the legends. It had always been Earth's way to fight in silence. Even now, though humanity had scattered across the stars, Earth's influence stretched far beyond its boundaries, guiding those who followed. With the colony's systems humming softly behind her, Jara could feel the weight of history pressing down on her. The Earth may have fallen, but it would never be forgotten. The final image lingered, Earth, peaceful, silent, and always waiting.